Hey guys, it's Daniel, and this is my review of episode 16 of Power Rangers Dino SuperCharge, Freaky Fight Day. The episode begins with Snide chained up in the evil ship, where Lord Arcanon grants Snide a chance to impress him. To prove himself to Arcanon, Snide brings out Professor Strickler, who then shows off his swapping bodies ability with a random Vivek and Singe. It works, and Arcanon agrees on the plan. Back at the museum, the Rangers are hiding inside of a wooden crate in attempts to catch a vandal who's been vandalizing the outside of the museum for the past couple weeks with graffiti. Eventually, they catch him and confront him. Ivan furiously takes the hood off of the vandal, and we see that the vandal looks exactly like Ivan. The Rangers ask the vandal whether or not he's from Xandar. He answers yes, and that he's actually an ancestor of one of the famous knights of Xandar. This vandal is actually related to Ivan. He's his great however times grandson, and his name is Zack. Back at the evil ship, Wrench reanimates Nightmare and Gameface, two monsters that the Rangers defeated previously, to assist Professor Strickler. If the plan succeeds, Snide wants Lord Arcanon to split Snide away from Heckle, just like the Rangers did with Zenowing and Doomwing. If Lord Arcanon agrees to split Snide away from Heckle, Snide promises to be by his side and defend him, and destroy Heckle. Arcanon agrees to split Snide and Heckle, and asks Wrench to go find the splitometers that the Rangers left in the rock quarry previously when they split Zenowing and Doomwing. Later on at the museum, Ivan watches Zack paint over the graffiti that he left. Riley shows up and attempts to lighten up the mood by giving Zack a lime smoothie and telling Ivan to lighten up a bit. And Riley gets through Zack's head that it's not right to damage other people's property, even if it's art. So Zack agrees to bond with Ivan. Ivan tries to show Zack traditional Xandar art, and when Ivan agrees to pose for a painting for Zack, Zack ends up painting a knight of his interpretation. Ivan looks at it and despises it and says that it's not art, not improving the relationship at all. The three monsters are sent out, and the Rangers attempt to defend the city from them. Eventually, Professor Strickler gets Nightmare to use his swapping eraser and swaps the bodies of all the Rangers, including Ivan and Riley, who show up a little later on. Eventually, the monsters teleport back to the evil ship, and the Rangers go back to base. In the next scene, we get a bit of a funny moment where all the Rangers, now in their swapped bodies, attempt to put on their old clothes again, and of course, none of them fit. I don't get this scene at all. I don't know why they did it. Maybe it's to make them feel more at home. Maybe it was just an excuse to get Tyler in a tight shirt. I don't know. I guess I'm not complaining about it, but it's sort of a waste of a scene. I guess it's supposed to be comedy, but whatever. In this scene, Riley in Ivan's body finds Zack's old painting in the trash, probably thrown out by Ivan, and when asked about it, Ivan in Riley's body still stands his ground and says it's not art, and does basically nothing, even with Keeper and Zenowing attempting to change his mind. Even though he reacted negatively, he does later on go to the Dino Bike Cafe in an attempt to try to explain his side of the story in Riley's body to Zack. Puts on a phony Riley accent, which isn't really convincing, but Zack, I guess, believes it. And he tries to give Zack this weird smoothie analogy. Even though somebody likes strawberry smoothies and somebody likes lime smoothies doesn't mean that they're bad smoothies, it just means that you personally don't like them, and you shouldn't judge another person for liking a different flavor of a smoothie, or just in general in life, you shouldn't judge people based off of something that you might not understand, but they're very passionate about. I found this scene a little bit weird. I think it would have made more sense for Zack to explain this analogy to Ivan, because to me, Ivan was being very unreasonable, I feel. Zack tried to paint, his interpretation of a knight of Xandar, and Ivan automatically shuts him out, and that's not going to improve the relationship. I guess they made Ivan do it because he's a ranger, and he's an older figure. Ivan, as Riley, ends the conversation by telling Zack to just give Ivan a chance. The monsters appear at the rock quarry, and of course the Rangers follow. Before the battle, the Rangers have this funny scene where they say their original Ranger color's name, but they're in a different Ranger color suit, and the explosion in the back is colored to what their original color was, which I found quite funny, especially seeing Tyler doing the Pink Ranger's pose. And of course, once they're done posing, Professor Strickler and the other monsters swap all the Rangers' bodies once again to make this episode even more confusing, and they have to attempt to fight all three of these monsters and completely different bodies again Obviously during the battle they're having a difficult time, so Tyler brings up the idea that all the Rangers should attempt to fight these monsters with their original weapons. It helps a little bit, but they're still having a difficult time. Eventually Zenowing shows up and morphs into the Silver Ranger and attempts to battle Professor Strickler. The evil professor then gets one of his monster goons to swap his body with the Silver Ranger. Now Zenowing is once again in another monster's body. Eventually Tyler finally destroys the Eraser and all their bodies go back to normal. Zenowing destroys Professor Strickler with his prism attack, and after he's destroyed, all the Rangers combine their powers and once again destroy Game Face and Nightmare. The monsters grow, and then the Rangers destroy them with the Dino Charge Ultra Zord. We then go to the evil ship once again. Lord Arcanon's disappointed, but even though he's disappointed, he still decided to attempt to split Snide from Heckle. Wrench found the splitometers from when the Rangers used it, and he turns on the machine. It works, and Heckle and Snide are now officially separated. Arcanon gets spike balls to grab Heckle and imprison him once again, while Snide is free and willing to do whatever Lord Arcanon asks. The episode ends in the Dynamite Cafe, where Zack and Ivan make amends and have lime smoothies. Obviously, this episode is a filler episode. It was getting too good. The past two episodes, besides Trick or Trial, were becoming too relevant to the plot, so they needed something to be a little bump, I suppose, and fill the episode space. This filler episode was actually kind of enjoyable. I thought it was funny to see the actor that plays Ivan play a different role, Zack. I really didn't get the message that they were trying to do with this. I mean, I know that they were trying to do two opposites attempting to get along, and they're both very stubborn, but it really didn't come off that way. It made Ivan look a bit like a jerk, like he wasn't attempting to adapt to how Zack was raised or how Zack is. I know that they were trying to make Zack the annoying, stubborn teenager, but in the end he's still kind of like a kid, and Ivan is older even though he's from a different generation, way different generation. I figured that he would still be sort of like the adult in the situation, and at least attempt to be a little bit open. It sort of made me dislike the Ivan character a little bit, and I didn't want to because I think Ivan's a funny character and a great character, and I don't want to dislike him. And Professor Strickler really wasn't too interesting. I felt like they could have did something else with the monster teacher costume instead of just doing like another body swap episode, but I suppose it was okay and it served its purpose. I felt like after a while the whole swapping storyline got a bit confusing. I felt like some of the scenes were just done for comedic relief and it wasn't really funny. I found it surprising that they put a fart joke in the episode with Coda farting in the box. I don't remember them doing too many fart jokes with the Power Rangers series. We did get some character development with Ivan, with him at the end accepting his 100 times great or whatever grandson, and it was nice to see the relationship sort of have a closure and that they get along now. Riley played a smaller role in this episode. He sort of became friends with Zack. Speaking of which, I wonder if Ivan told Zack that they swapped bodies. I don't think Zack was even told that they're Power Rangers. If I remember correctly. No, they didn't, so he doesn't know. He must have known something was up, though, when Riley walked up dressed differently and speaking weird. When I overthink it now, I think of a little bit of some plot holes going on. We did get some villain development with Snide and Heckle being split, Snide sticking around to help out Lord Arcanon, and them imprisoning Heckle again. At the end of the day, I would say this is a fun episode, and I feel like I'd be a downer if I were to deny that it was somewhat funny and enjoyable. So I'd give this episode a 3 out of 5. It's not nearly as good as the Silver Secret episode or the Wings of Danger episode, but I mean, we needed a filler episode, I suppose. If you enjoyed this episode review, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more Dino SuperCharge reviews, please click the subscribe button. I'd also really appreciate that. Comment below what you thought of this episode. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, you guys could follow me on social media at blackandblue572 on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!